My 20th boyfriend 20M turned into a completely different person for a day and I want to break up. We've met around a half year ago, but started dating only last month. We worked at the same company at that time. He has a playboy sort of look, fit, well-groomed, longish hair, sparkly studs in his ears, and a pretty boy face to top it all off. I thought he was your typical womanizer sort. One day he bought me a cup of coffee and we started chatting. He turned out to be the opposite of a playboy. He's a very shy, reserved, borderline chaste person, a bit awkward, but in a charming way. We bonded over our love for classic Russian literature, Soviet cinema, and tea. It took him a couple of weeks of break room meetups to finally ask me out on a friendly date. After a few months of going out, he asked me if I wanted something more serious with him. And for the first time in my life, I decided to commit to a relationship. After that night, he left for a 2-day trip with his college mates. We made plans to go out the evening of his return. He invited me to a cafe not far from my place, told me to close my eyes and wait for him. I felt him tap on my shoulder, and when I excitedly turned around to face him expecting a surprise present, he promised me he was standing there empty-handed. He explained that he left the present on the train, which isn't totally out of the realm of possibility with how clumsy he can be, but it really put me off. I ordered some food for myself, but he opted only for dessert. Again, I found it pretty weird, but he told me that he wasn't hungry. He didn't offer to pay for my meal, which, once again, is fine. I am making more money than him, so it is understandable, but very strange since in our culture it is unacceptable for a man not to pay for his date. We were going to see a movie after dinner, but he didn't bother buying us tickets. I can understand even that, because I haven't explicitly told him to do that. So we had to settle for a tea house nearby. In the tea house, he seemed wholly confused by everything, asking the stupidest questions. He even didn't know how to turn the kettle on. Weird, because our shared love for tea and culture surrounding it was one of the first things we bonded over. He again let me pay for our table, and by that point I was very irritated with him, but still let him walk me to my house. On our way, we stumbled into a low fence. I decided walk around it, but he tried to hop it, and as to be expected, fell over. Thankfully, there was enough snow to soften the fall. He wasn't hurt, so I felt it was appropriate to laugh and jokingly asked him to stay there so I can take a photo. This may seem like a dick move on my part, but since the beginning of our, at first, friendship, we've been teasing each other. He calls me a know-it-all nerd, and I call him a brainless idiot. Whenever he would fuck up at work, I would make fun of him, and he did the same. Both of us have pretty thick skin, so I didn't think he would be offended by me laughing at him falling over a fence of all things. But instead of laughing with me, he quickly got up, walked over to me, and threw me on the ground. And not in the snow. I hit my head on the icy asphalt pretty hard. I was absolutely horrified by this weird reaction. I would have never expected this sort of behavior from him. He didn't even apologize, just tried to laugh it off. Then, when I told him to call the taxi, he didn't have enough money for a ride home. When I asked him why he decided to ask me out this late if he didn't have enough money to return home, he told me that he doesn't carry that much cash to stop himself from overspending. Sounds like bullshit, but he's still in college living on a tight budget, so who knows. I was done with him for the evening, but couldn't just leave him on the street in the winter, so gave him some cash to pay and tip the driver and called a cab. It was the worst date I've ever been on. I felt so weirded out by his strange behavior that I didn't check his messages for the next 2 days. When I finally responded, he didn't apologize for anything, except for throwing me on the ground. Even that he didn't do properly. I'm sorry. Didn't realize you were so fragile. That was his apology. Other than that, he was back to his caring and thoughtful old self. Kept checking in on me throughout the day, asking if I needed something, offering to hang out again. He apologized again properly, but I still have a bad feeling about that day. Now I am thinking about breaking up, but I am not sure. He has never acted that way with me or anybody else. He acted so out of character. Maybe I am just scared of commitment and looking for a way out of it, over-dramatizing the situation? Or is it a sign that something is of? I don't want to throw out a good friendship because of one bad day.